Prince Harry, inappropriately lunge for a hug with another woman who has a boyfriend and was completely shocked by this right next to your said wife, who I presume was looking away at that moment. Yes.
You've got this beautiful singer, and her name is Cindy Christmas. And she's a beautiful lady. In fact, if she was in your life, it would be Christmas every day. And who knows, because Harry looks a little bit like Santa Claus. He's like a ginger Father Christmas, isn't he? And for Cindy, standout experience of the evening was meeting Harry. She was totally taken with him.
Harry's latest public appearance was supposed to be about charity, music, and celebration. Instead, one unexpected hug, Meghan's camera-ready antics, cookie queens, and a very uncomfortable Martha Stewart story have put the Sussexes back under the microscope. And the strangest part? The hug itself may not even be the biggest problem.
So what do you do when your marriage is in such a good place and you're just blissfully happy? Inappropriately, this is of your Prince Harry, inappropriately lunge for a hug with another woman who has a boyfriend and was completely shocked by this right next.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle arrived in Canada for David Foster's 40th anniversary charity gala, an event connected to a genuinely worthwhile cause. The David Foster Foundation has supported families whose children require life-saving organ transplants, and the organization has assisted thousands of families over the years. So, on paper, this should have been an easy win for Harry and Meghan. Show up, support the charity, smile for the cameras, leave.
£14 million, allegedly, or $14 million, whether you believe it or not, I'm not quite sure, was raised at this particular 40th anniversary foundation that Markles attended. And as I said, not too sure about whether they dipped into anybody else's purse to make a donation. Who knows with Meghan and Harry?
Instead, the evening produced a moment that immediately attracted attention. During the event, singer Cindy Christmas performed for the guests. She later described what happened when she came off stage. According to Sydney, Harry approached her and gave her a big cuddle. She recalled him telling her that he had felt every word of her performance and that he had really connected with it.
No one was watching her during the moment that Harry lunged at Sydney Christmas. Now, this is the Britain's Got Talent winner who has spoken about what went down in a brand new interview with Ellie Henman of The Sun's Bizarre column. She writes, Prince Harry has given his royal seal of approval to 2024 Britain's Got Talent winner Sydney Christmas. He told Sid, quote, he felt every word in the back of his throat after she performed Tomorrow from Anne and Frank Sinatra's My Way in front of him at David Foster's charity gala in Canada over the weekend.
She also said that Harry simply went in for the hug, leaving her surprised by how spontaneous the moment was. Now, a hug at a charity event is not automatically scandalous. That is important, but context matters. Sydney had a boyfriend, and the moment happened publicly, with Meghan nearby. That is why commentators immediately began asking whether Harry's reaction was simply warm and spontaneous, or whether he had crossed a line that someone in his position should have been more careful about.
Both tracks have poignant lyrics about overcoming difficulties and being beaten down, which is rather apt for Harry, who has endured setback after setback recently. Speaking from Canada, Sid told me, when I was on stage, I joked about meeting his dad before adding, sorry he couldn't make it, he sent me instead. Oh my God, I say such silly things when I'm nervous, but Harry started laughing. Here's where it gets weird. When I got down off stage, he just came forward and gave me a big cuddle.
And that is where the story gets interesting, because Sydney herself did not describe some carefully arranged photo opportunity. She described Harry approaching her after the performance and initiating the hug. For Harry, perhaps, it was nothing more than an emotional reaction to a performance. But for a man whose public life is already surrounded by questions about image, judgment, and his relationship with Meghan, it was never going to remain just a private little moment. And Meghan's response, or more accurately, the absence of any visible reaction in her social media coverage, made the contrast even more noticeable.
And the connection between the two of them was electric. There was chemistry there. Harry's eyes lit up. He looked like a kid in a candy store. And it's a huge deal because it absolutely demonstrates But Harry's not happy that he hasn't got, in my opinion, that loving relationship, that emotional connection with Meghan that he did have with Cindy Christmas.
The footage and commentary surrounding the evening quickly shifted attention away from the charity and toward the Sussexes themselves. And that brings us to Meghan. Because while Harry was attracting attention for the hug, Meghan was attracting attention for something she has repeatedly been criticized for: managing the scene around her. At the gala, commentators pointed to footage of Meghan appearing to direct people where to stand and how to position themselves for photographs.
This whole appearance alongside David Foster and Catherine McPhee in Canada for their charity gala was not surprisingly a complete mess for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Meghan, look at this. She just can't help directing traffic on a red carpet, can she? When will she learn? She just needs to go and stand and smile and avoid this awkwardness in front of banks of cameras.
David Foster and Catherine McPhee were hosting an event connected to their own foundation, yet Meghan was visibly involved in the positioning and presentation happening around the cameras. That may sound like a tiny detail, but it becomes significant when you consider the bigger pattern. A red carpet is supposed to capture a moment. Meghan often appears determined to control the moment.
By all accounts, this woman was very happy with her boyfriend, but as Nancy Sidley put it, imagine this being your pinch me moment. And there was lots of other cringe connected to this event, including the copying of William and Catherine's fashion. As the veil between us pointed out, well, it appears that Zarkle isn't the only one cosplaying a member of the royal family. Zarkle wore a cape dress like Princess Catherine, and Harry wore a velvet jacket like Prince William. How pathetic are these two?
And those are two very different things. One commentator questioned why she seemed unable simply to stand, smile, and let the professionals around her handle the photography. Another criticism focused on the fact that Meghan reportedly stopped walking and had her assistant take out a phone so that she could record the surrounding spectacle herself. That detail is revealing because it changes the purpose of the moment. Instead of simply attending an event, Meghan appeared to be documenting the event as content. And there is nothing inherently wrong with taking photographs. The problem is the impression created when the camera repeatedly becomes part of the performance.
Meghan's incessant need to vibe is very main character syndrome and probably a bit embarrassing after a while. Brittany, so great to have you here. Hope you had an amazing weekend. I mean, yes, it is embarrassing. Completely agree. Maybe not as embarrassing as your husband, who's meant to be the dignified prince, lunging at a female singer 10 years his junior, going in for a hug, breaking royal protocol after saying that he felt her performance at the back of his throat.
The gala was raising money for charity. The Foster family was documenting the event. And yet Meghan's social media presentation became part of the conversation almost as much as the charity itself. One comparison in the source material is particularly telling. Catherine Foster's coverage included the fundraising, the environment, and the event itself, while Meghan's content focused much more heavily on herself, moving through the venue and interacting with the camera. That difference matters, because it raises a simple question. Are you attending the event to support the cause, or to create a new batch of personal content?
But the whole perspective comes across as very odd, going in and lunging for a hug and a cuddle, as she describes it. Again, shows Harry kind of desperately trying to figure out, I think, what this post-royal life means, because they're desperately trying to be royal. Meghan even went out of her way to wear a Canadian designer for her gown. And they're very much trying to, again, he's trying to do that buddy-buddy thing with the bagpipers. They're just very much trying to emulate this life that they left.
And then there was the bagpipe moment. The appearance of the pipes and drums gave Harry and Meghan an opportunity to embrace something unmistakably British. But instead of simply letting the moment happen naturally, Meghan's reaction became another talking point. The footage was interpreted by commentators as another example of the Sussexes leaning heavily into British imagery while living thousands of miles away from the institution they walked away from. That criticism becomes even more interesting when you look at Harry's clothing. The source material points out that Meghan wore a cape-style gown reminiscent of Princess Catherine's fashion choices, while Harry appeared in a velvet jacket similar to styles associated with Prince William.
What was with the whole bagpiping thing? I mean, the way that's gone down over here, Brittany, is that if Harry really loves bagpipes that much, well, shouldn't he be at Balmoral anyway, where he could be hearing them every morning? But I mean, what was Meghan doing sort of describing them as sexy? To me, it felt over the top. It was like, oh gosh, here is something connected to the United Kingdom. We're going to have to make a performance of it. It didn't feel natural to me.
It did not at all, Dan. And of course, Nancy is right as well. Like, somebody had to take the time to stop the movement, to get a camera out, to film it. And I don't think Meghan would have walked through there and acknowledged them at all, except for the fact that she desperately wanted something for the gram.
Individually, none of that proves anything. People wear capes. Men wear velvet jackets. British events feature bagpipes. But when all three things happen at the same event, critics are inevitably going to notice the royal echoes. And that leads directly to the larger William and Catherine comparison. Because while Harry and Meghan continue to fight for attention through appearances, social media moments, and entertainment projects, Prince William and Catherine have been building a very different kind of public profile. Recent figures discussed by royal commentators show strong American support for the Prince and Princess of Wales' charitable work. The Royal Foundation's U.S. arm was reported to have contributed roughly $11.7 million in 2024, with American support accounting for a substantial share of the foundation's income.
Did get some really exciting numbers from Richard Eden in the Daily Mail over the last week. Prince William and Catherine pulling ahead of Prince Harry and Meghan in one surprising area. It turns out that their royal foundation is proving remarkably successful in the States. Newly released accounts show its U.S. arm contributed roughly $11.7 million in 2024, while American support reportedly accounted for 44% of the foundation's total income in 2025. The foundation funds projects including William's Homewards Initiative, Catherine's early years work and conservation programs, and its latest account shows significant charitable spending alongside health reserves.
The distinction critics are making is not simply about popularity. It is about consistency. William and Catherine are repeatedly associated with causes that they have stayed committed to over time: homelessness, early childhood development, conservation, and the Earthshot Prize. Their supporters see that as substance. Their critics may disagree with individual decisions, but even the discussion in the source material acknowledges that the Prince and Princess of Wales have established a track record around particular causes. And that creates an uncomfortable contrast for Harry and Meghan, because the Sussex brand still relies heavily on the royal connection that they supposedly left behind.
It's an interesting contrast with Harry and Meghan's charity ventures, which went through reconstruction and layoffs last year. Harry also dealing with the chaos of Senabale. We expect that to go to trial potentially at the end of 2027. Does it surprise you that America has so much enthusiasm for Prince William and Catherine's vision?
No, because I do think America does have a soft spot for the British royal family. We've seen that, even President Trump, your president, is quite clearly enamored of the impact that our royal family can have on a global stage.
The titles remain part of the identity. The family remains part of the story. The British imagery remains part of the visual language. And now, even their fashion choices and event appearances can trigger comparisons with William and Catherine. But the biggest problem for Meghan may be happening somewhere completely different: Hollywood. Or more specifically, the struggle to establish herself as a lifestyle personality on her own terms. And that brings us to Cookie Queens. Meghan's involvement with the Girl Scout documentary was supposed to fit neatly into the lifestyle and family space she has been trying to occupy.
Disastrous news out of the box office. I predicted this. Always thought Cookie Queens was going to be a total disaster. So I was a bit of a geek yesterday. I love looking at the box office receipts that come in on a big weekend of movies, and obviously the last couple of weekends, Britney, Spider-Man and The Odyssey have been breaking records after records in America in particular, but also around the world.
But the promotional interviews created their own problems. During one interview, Meghan was asked what cookie her children liked. Her answer was Samoas, describing them as a big fan favorite for her kids. But commentators seized on the fact that she appeared to hesitate and look toward the production team before answering. Again, a tiny moment. But tiny moments are exactly what become dangerous when your entire public image depends on appearing authentic.
Now, of course, Cookie Queens is on a different level to that. Like, I'm not for 1 second saying it should be getting Odyssey or Spider-Man numbers, but Britney is getting appalling numbers even for a documentary like this. So let me just take you through it, okay? So the film opened August the 7th, 2026, in a moderate limited release of 446 theatres.
Then came the bigger criticism. Instead of simply talking about Girl Scout cookies, Meghan repeatedly brought the conversation back toward her own products and her own food brand. Critics noted that the promotional material even featured cookies made with a different jam rather than Meghan's own product. And that is where the Cookie Queen criticism starts to make sense, because the audience was supposed to be hearing about young girls, their stories, and the Girl Scouts. Yet the conversation repeatedly circled back to Meghan, even when she was surrounded by young women whose stories were supposed to be the emotional center of the project. Critics argued that she dominated the conversation instead of allowing the girls to become the focus.
Which Girl Scout cookie best describes your personality?
Oh, trefoil. It's classic and classic.
I can see trefoil for
It's
you.
like classic. It's sweet. Also, it's all the same color and I like tonal dressing. It's the worst answer in the world.
How do these Girl Scouts inspire you?
These girls are so multi-dimensional and honest. Also, just behind the scenes and getting to know them through this process, how they've all become close with each other and support each other.
It was incredible to bear witness to that, like in real time, and then also sharing it, like watching them share that when they watch Cookie Queens with an audience and feel the love and the connection that they're creating by their bravery to share the story. So
Like we're our own little troupe.
definitely.
And then came the numbers. The source material reports that Cookie Queens opened on August 7th, 2026 in 446 U.S. theaters, with an opening domestic weekend gross of roughly $327,797. The reported per-theater average was around $700 to $735. Those numbers are now being used by critics to question whether Meghan's attempt to establish herself in the lifestyle and entertainment space is actually connecting with audiences. And this is where the Martha Stewart story becomes particularly important, because Martha Stewart represents something Meghan desperately wants to represent: an established American lifestyle authority.
So it's opening weekend, that's Friday to Sunday. The domestic gross, this is US only, was $327,797. And Box Office Mojo has noted as estimated that on Friday it took between $122,000 to $124,000. Saturday, $113,000, had dropped on Sunday to $91,000.
Martha did not build that position overnight. She built it through decades of television, publishing, products, business, and relentless work. The source material reports that Martha attended a dinner where Meghan was also present, and later discussed hearing Meghan talk about a recent trip and the palace. Meghan's camp subsequently pushed back, saying Martha's account was inaccurate and that Meghan had only said the family had a great time. And that is where the story exploded, because suddenly, instead of Martha Stewart simply mentioning an awkward dinner conversation, the public was left with two competing versions of what happened. And commentators immediately asked, why fight this publicly? Why turn a small dinner party anecdote into another media story? Especially when the person on the other side is Martha Stewart. One royal commentator put the contrast bluntly. Martha has decades of credibility in the lifestyle space, while Meghan is still trying to establish herself there. That is the real problem. It is not that Meghan cannot become a successful lifestyle personality. She can try. Anyone can. But credibility cannot simply be announced. It has to be built. And that is exactly why the Martha comparison hurts.
Cookie Queens is in 400 plus theatres domestically and literally made the same amount of 2 movies that have been out for just over a month, plus that have literally close to the amount of theatres it is in. Mind you, the other 2 movies have already made millions since opening, unless they have strong Saturday and Sunday numbers. Not even sure it was worth putting this out. I can see why Netflix passed on it. And of course, Brittany, it didn't then have the strong numbers. The numbers actually got weaker on Saturday and Sunday.
They certainly did, Dan. I actually did get to see the movie on Thursday. They had Thursday previews for this.
Oh my God,
well.
did you? Tell me
I certainly
everything.
did. Yes. So I was in the theater with only 2 other people. One of the smallest theaters.
Martha Stewart has already built the empire. Meghan is still trying to convince the audience that she belongs in the same room. And the more these public disputes happen, the harder that becomes. Because every time Meghan appears at another event, another interview, or another promotional opportunity, the audience is no longer just watching the event. They are watching the performance. They are asking what is natural, what is staged, what is genuine, what is being promoted, and what is being deliberately left out. That brings us right back to Sydney Christmas. Harry's hug became one of the most talked about moments of the evening. Meghan's camera-focused behavior became another. The British imagery created another comparison. Cookie Queens created another round of questions about Meghan's entertainment ambitions. And the Martha Stewart dispute created another question about credibility. Individually, each story might be dismissed as a minor celebrity moment. Together, they create a much bigger narrative. Harry and Meghan are still trying to control how the world sees them, but the more they try to control the image, the more people seem determined to examine what happens outside the carefully chosen frame. And perhaps that is the real lesson from this entire episode. You cannot build a lasting public image through photographs alone. You cannot manufacture authenticity. You cannot borrow credibility, and you certainly cannot recreate the authority of William and Catherine simply by wearing similar clothes, appearing at similar events, or surrounding yourself with familiar royal imagery. The Prince and Princess of Wales have chosen the slower route: consistency, causes, long-term projects, and institutional credibility.
I'm not surprised by the numbers. Obviously, there's great demands on the charitable dollar/pound, but it is good to see that the Royal Foundation and the work they're doing is attracting global financial support.
When you talk about authenticity and just like how genuine the Prince and Princess of Wales are, do you also mean in their efforts to pursue causes that are truly meaningful to them?
I think they've made it quite clear that they don't want to just pull back a curtain and open an event and disappear off into the sunset. They do want to be involved in projects that have an impact.
Harry and Meghan have chosen a much more volatile route: entertainment, lifestyle branding, social media, and constant reinvention. Whether that strategy works remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the hug with Sydney Christmas was only the beginning of the conversation. The real story is everything that happened around it. And if the Sussexes thought this gala would simply produce another glamorous set of photographs, the reaction suggests otherwise. So, what do you make of Harry's decision to hug Sydney Christmas? Was it simply a spontaneous, emotional gesture after her performance? Or did he cross a line that someone in his position should have avoided? And what about Meghan's behavior throughout the event, the Cookie Queens controversy, and the growing comparison with William and Catherine? More importantly, whose version of the Martha Stewart story do you believe? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next royal story. And if you want to see what happened next in the Sussexes' latest public drama, click the video on screen now, because the story surrounding Harry and Meghan is far from over.